Hi everyone, just before this interview begins, I want to give a huge shout out to a good friend of mine, Thomas Copeland, who without his help I probably wouldn't have been able to source some of the guests for these interviews. If you're enjoying these conversations so far and have keen interest in young people's thoughts and place within the political and social sphere throughout Ireland today, I'd urge you to go and check out Challenges Northern Ireland. Challenges Northern Ireland is a website that provides a platform for young voices throughout Northern Ireland and beyond to have their say on a wider range of political and social issues. If this sounds like something you might be interested in or even interested in writing for, a link to the website will be at the top link of the description, and if you're listening to this on Spotify, you can visit the website through www.challengesni.com. That's www.challengesni.com. Thanks a million and enjoy the episode. The Ulster Unionist Party was founded in 1905 and contests elections solely in Northern Ireland. In line with the party's name, the UUP is a unionist political party and is currently the fourth largest party in Northern Ireland, behind the Democratic Unionist Party, Sinn Féin and the Social Democratic and Labour Party. The party sits to the centre-right of the political spectrum and aligns itself mostly with conservatism, so much so that up until 1972 the party's MPs took the Conservative whip in Westminster, before the arrangement came to an end following disagreements over the Sunningdale Agreement. Currently, the UUP holds 10 seats in the Northern Irish Assembly, 2 seats at the House of Lords and 74 seats at local government level in Northern Ireland. In this episode, I sat down with Matthew Bell, a member of the UUP, to ask what attracted him to politics and the Ulster Unionist Party. Perfect. Thanks a million, Matthew, for joining me today. First of all, from your perspective as a member of the UUP, what initially sparked your interest in politics?
So my interest in politics comes really from my love of history, obviously the jump between history and politics isn't a great one. So politics is basically tomorrow's history, really. And as someone who loves debating and discussing issues in the news, it was really easy to slip into a political party. It was really easy to slip into a politics course at university, just because my interests and passions really aligned with that kind of thinking. Yeah, that's it. Just like history, so you like politics.
So with that interest, obviously, and going into politics, your first initial thought going into it is, what party do I join? So what then brought you to the UUP?
So I started taking interest when I was around 16. So that was the time of Mike Nesbitt. And I come from quite a traditional unionist background, kind of a stereotype almost. And I knew as a unionist, so I had to do my research into the UUP and the UP, because the Alliance Party don't really exist in West Tyrone and the PUP don't exist west of the Ban. So at the time, Mike Nesbitt was pushing the whole progressive, forward-thinking Northern Ireland, very positive, very liberal almost. Well, up in 2016, if you Googled the DUP, some of the stuff on the internet isn't very positive towards them. You had speeches by Ian Paisley Jr. being incredibly homophobic. It was just so negative, insular almost. You've heard the unionist siege mentality. It was very much like that. And when that contrasted to Mike Nesbitt and the UUP's forward-looking vision, positive unionism, one was much easier to gravitate towards.
So since then, joining the UUP, what has been the main aspect of not only the party, but politics as a whole that's kept you involved in this sphere?
The Ulster Unionist Party is very lucky to have such an active and such a very welcoming youth wing. So the Young Unionists is an organisation within the party, and they're good at organising events. They're really good at getting you involved, meeting people, and they do workshops. So how to speak on camera, how to debate. And then the more you go to these meetings, the more you meet people, you become their friends, you get slipped in, you go campaigning. And it's just a really welcoming environment. And then from a political aspect, I'm really happy with the way the party's moving at the minute. So that makes it much easier staying involved. Steve Aiken's I think, slowly becoming an excellent leader. Robin Swan, I thought was stepped up to the bit very well. And then obviously when I joined Mike Nesbitt, I really enjoyed his vision for the party. So as long as we keep moving that direction, I can't see myself becoming unhappy in the party anytime soon.
looking then from both the youth party perspective and the senior party perspective of the UUP, both in your own personal experience and then on a broader whole, do you think that politicians are beginning to listen to younger people a lot more, or are they not doing enough?
So I'll start with like the UUP to start with, and the youth wings really taking the lead when it comes to your more stereotypical issues like young people enjoy and discuss, so like the environment, mental health issues, issues relating to specifically women. The youth wing is doing an excellent job at taking first stance and pushing those issues within the party, which admittedly in the past has been very focused on the idea of unionism and like the economy mostly. So it's great to see the youth wing really pushing those issues. Then politics in general. So before the coronavirus, the big thing in the news was the Extinction Rebellion. It was young people taking a stand about the environment, it was mental health. And, young people got a lot of press, whether or not you agree with it, whether or not it was right or wrong for them to be missing school. They got in the papers, politicians took notice, and the environment after Brexit, after the coronavirus, will be the next big issue. And I hope and I believe that young people will be at the forefront of that debate.
That actually nicely leads on into my next question, which is around, particularly in the Republic, we've always seen in recent years big youth turnouts for the most recent referendums, that on gay marriage and that on the repeal of the 8th Amendment. Do you think, from a northern perspective, there's anything that will galvanise the youth together, not through a party flag or one particular party issue, but as a whole to campaign for something? I think you mentioned it a little bit, but maybe just touch on it a bit more.
So the issues you mentioned in the Republic is quite different in Northern Ireland, because the largest party is the DUP and they are staunchly against same-sex marriage and abortion, whilst the largest nationalist party, obviously Sinn Féin, are very much for it, meaning supporters in those two camps aren't going to come together on those issues. However, we've seen a rise in the centre ground. So my own party, the UUP, SDLP Alliance, they've been making big steps towards the centre, meaning I think centre ground politics is slowly coming closer together rather than the two extremities. Now, specifically in Northern Ireland, because we're such a rural place, the environment is a big issue, and there is a lot of cross-party work on that. The other thing, I think, maybe not youth parties, but politics in general, is very much infrastructure, because especially in my area, west of the Van, parties are coming together to kind of push more infrastructure development. But specifically for the youth, I think it'll be mental health, the environment, which will galvanise parties together and the youth wings, because they are issues that affect everyone regardless of creed or race.
Very much in the past, at least with moderate parties, the UUP and the SDLP would have been considered the moderate parties for both respective nationalists and unionists. Now in 2020 and even before that, we've seen a growing rise in people identifying more with the DUP and Sinn Féin. Do you think that there's going to be a chance in the future for the UUP and the SDLP to kind of come back as the forefront two big parties in Northern Ireland?
Well, in the last two elections, both the Ulster Unionist and the SDLP vote share rose. So evidently, people are coming back to the centre ground, because I think everyone's seen how much of a farce the two largest parties have been in the Assembly. So it's probably really bad to hope that the government keeps failing, but they are failing. And so election after election, I think the centre ground is going to come back. For the good of the country, I hope the centre ground comes back.
In the past, the UUP has had alliances with the Conservative Party, mainly back in, this is going back to 1972, and then in 1985 they withdrew from the National Union of Conservatives and Unionists Association. And there was an attempt in around 2011 as well from David Cameron to establish a new sort of broader party with the Unionists in Northern Ireland. Do you see that sort of coming together again with the Conservative Party in the UK, or do you think they're going to stick with the DUP in the future?
When we were working with the Tories, we had MPs at that stage. I think that's, and in Westminster, I think the Conservatives were more willing to work with us than the DUP, because the DUP I would describe more as a populist party, closer to kind of UKIP rather than the Tories, while the Ulster Unionist Party is more traditionally centre-right, that kind of more David Cameron's kind of idea of conservatism. If and when we get MPs, I'm sure we will work closer to the Tories, because the Labour Party traditionally hasn't been seen as a friend to unionism, especially Corbyn. And recently there's been more allegations towards Starmer having sympathies with Sinn Féin, which puts a bad taste in unionist mouths. So I think naturally we're closer going to be working with the Tories than the Labour Party.
Since we're on the topic of, say, alliances with parties in different jurisdictions, do you see any party in the Republic of Ireland that is maybe an ally to the UUP, or are all of them very much nationalist branches?
Depends what you mean by ally. None of them are, like, SDLP and Fianna Fáil obviously have been moving closer together. Nothing like that will ever happen with the Ulster Unionist Party, because every major party in the Republic of Ireland is an Irish nationalist party seeking a united Ireland, which is unthinkable to the UUP. Like, if we're grasping at straws, possibly Fine Gael, simply because they're a little bit more to the right rather than the traditional, like Sinn Féin being very much a left-wing party, being a Republican party, Fianna Fáil being a little bit more left, but that's the height of it. Outside the major issues, perhaps, but not massively.
Obviously, a united Ireland isn't a stance that the UUP favour, but if it was inevitable, what positions would you like to see most represented from a unionist perspective?
What do you mean?
Like, so there was a lot of talk about, say, if there was a united Ireland, there'd have to be changes made to the flag, the anthem, different elements of culture and structure in the entire island. Do you think there's one particular issue that would come to your mind, or are you kind of not thinking about that yet?
Not even yet. No, Ulster Unionists won't contemplate this. It won't happen. It will never happen. And the minute we start engaging, then that's slowly taken away, or like it'll chip away at our position. Steve Aiken has come out and rightfully said we should not engage in discussions relating to the United Ireland, because it will not happen, and it's a waste of time, waste of money, waste of effort.
But in that vein, and just indulge me for a second, in that vein though, there was very similar messages along the time during the Good Friday Agreement signing, and I think both the SDLP and the UUP knew that they were both compromising on very heavy positions that would ultimately see their vote share drop in the next coming election. Do you not think there's a similar perspective with this in some elements, or is it very much a black and white issue?
United Ireland by its nature is a black and white issue. Like, or do you think there should be united or not? Yes or no. You can't really have a middle opinion on it, because it is the biggest issue in Northern Irish politics and will remain so until either the nationalist parties win away, or, God forbid, there's a united Ireland.
Fair enough. My final question then for you is, where do you see your own personal future going in youth politics and politics as a whole?
So short term, I'm the current university officer in the Young Unionist. So for the next year, I'm going to be working with Queen's University, Georgetown and Coleraine to promote our cause on campus, organise a few events, hopefully have a few pints. And then long term, I want to be involved in politics, whether as an elected representative or behind the scenes, in Stormont or council. Really much, just try and make Northern Ireland better. Is not the ultimate goal of politics, really.
That's it. Perfect. Thanks a million, Matthew. It's been brilliant talking to you.
Thank you. You're very kind.